We have a phone call.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Eddie.
Good afternoon. I had one question I just thought of, but in light of the evil that our world is, it's diabolical. I was wondering what your Eminence and you, Father, kind of thought of the prophecies of Mary at Fatima, that the errors of Russia would end up taking over the whole world. Especially you look at the Olympics, some of the horrors that are happening there. It seems like the errors are just spreading everywhere. Islam is invading many of these countries, and they are turning away from Christ. I know in the Bible it says there will be a great apostasy. But I was wondering your thoughts on her prophecies. And, St. Bridget, if you read her prophecies, she talks a lot about Mary. If you want to get a lot of insight into Mary, she has some really great prophecies, in particular to Mary. But on the apparitions and Mary's prophecies, kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that in the current conditions in the world today, because they are pretty horrid, Father and Your Eminence. I'll just hang up, and I'm looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are.
Once again, thanks for the call, Eddie.
All right, thank you, Father.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, perhaps I would like to preface an answer to Eddie's question here that the private revelations of the different saints and individuals, while they may be good and approved by the Church, they are definitely not dogmatic. So I can't look to the prophecies or the revelations of this saint or even at Fatima as if they were dogma. They do not stand on the same level as Pope Pius XII's dogmatic definition of the Assumption of the Blessed Mother into heaven. So with that distinction, we don't put as much credence, you might say, in these revelations. The Church has given her approval. They are okay for you to believe in, but you do not have to believe in them. You do not have to follow them. With that said, I can agree with Eddie that this world is in really a diabolical situation because of the free will of man. We have chosen to pursue pleasure rather than happiness. We have sought to avoid pain rather than embracing our suffering for the love of God. And so the Blessed Mother, because she is in heaven, she is so near to God, I do not doubt that she can reveal the future to us, and as far as she is given that ability by God. And so what she has foretold, and it seems to me that really the message that I gather or can glean from so many apparitions of the Blessed Mother is that she wants us to pray and do penance, that we are only going to save ourselves by prayer and penance. And Bishop Lewis spoke and wrote about the great apostasy a long time ago, but one thing that really stuck out to me was he said, this great apostasy cannot be reversed. It was prophesied. God said this is going to happen. It will happen. We're not going to be able to stop it. We're not going to be able to hinge it or, turn it this way or that. It was already foreseen. God has told us that it is foreseen, and it is going to happen just as Christ has said it will happen. So the great apostasy for the believer is not something that is shocking, but it should be quite sorrowful to us to realize that so many people have turned away from God. And we have many revelations of the saints. I think it was St. Teresa that said she saw hell opened up before her, and the souls were falling like the leaves of the trees in the autumn. These souls were falling down in mass to hell. The scriptures are clear that many are called, but few are chosen. We can, carry this on with this saint and that saint, this revelation, that revelation. But it is important, I think, for us to understand that we're not going to avoid the great apostasy. we're not going to avoid this end. We may not live to see this end, but then again, we may see the coming of Christ here on earth in this life. We don't know, but we must always be watching and waiting. We must always be prepared. And being prepared is not like waiting for the great bomb, as they told us, half a century ago or so, that the nuclear bomb is going to come and people are taking out bomb shelters under their homes and preparing, stocking away food for this great collapse of society. When I say be prepared, you can do all that. I don't care. But I'm more concerned about preparing our souls. We need to be right with God. We need to be prepared in our soul so that no matter what happens, if we live or die, we live or die in the love of God. And we are pleasing to God, and we are doing God's holy will, and that is what we must seek to do each and every day. And I say that is the best preparation that we can make. But I have seen, really in my own lifetime, the fulfillment of so much of this great apostasy. And, in my own lifetime, I can point out here in the United States, the whole sexual revolution, the legalization of divorce, the legalization of the murder of the preborn, which we euphemistically call abortion. We see the degradation of matrimony, opening it up for same-sex couples. We see the insult to God, which more people perhaps notice, the insult to the sacrament of matrimony, the insult to femininity, the insult to masculinity. Everything is under attack. Everything is under assault. And we should not be surprised. And foretold, we need to be ready for it. We need to turn to the Blessed Mother for her intercession, at least in our own personal lives. These things are happening right before our eyes, and we can be easily sucked up and taken down into them if we're not paying attention, if we're not waking up. And I think it is tragic, but really it didn't begin in my lifetime. Vatican II began long before the Council even convened. The destruction is from the beginning. And I often think about the fact that the devils have been around since the beginning of time. These devils are intelligent beings. They are learning about us. They are studying us. The devils do not sleep. They don't need rest. They don't need to eat. They are pure spirits, and they're watching us constantly. I think it would be foolish to consider that the devils have not learned anything over these 2,000 years of Christianity, plus the, 4,000 years before Christ came. We'd be fools to think that these intelligent beings haven't learned anything. They have really masterminded everything. They know us inside and out better than we know ourselves. I won't say they know us as well as God does, but they do know our human nature. They know our weaknesses. They can look at us and put us in a category, and they know just how to manipulate us. And it is only with the grace of God that we might not succumb or be preserved from succumbing to these demonic temptations, if you will, these demonic presentations that are so alluring to our fallen nature. But, in Christianity, it's not long before heresies arose, shortly after Christ, in the time of the apostles. Heresies and schisms, I think that culminated in the Protestant Revolution, where they revolted against God, revolted against Christ, revolted against His church. I don't say Reformation, I say revolution, and I chose that word very carefully because it is demonic. In the exorcism prayers, we refer to the devil as the Doctor Hereticorium, the teacher of all heresies. And this is truly what he is. And every schism, every heresy, every error is inspired by the devils. And mankind has fallen head over heels into Protestantism, and they think, oh, this is Christianity. It's not Christianity at all. They use the name of Christianity, they use the name of Christ, they use parts of the Bible that the church has preserved and handed over to us for our edification, our sanctification. The devil has usurped all of these things, put them in the hands of heretics, Protestants, if you want to call them that, whatever they want. But all this division of Christianity is the devil's work. This is not the work of God. Christ has one flock, and that is the Catholic Church. That one flock has the Blessed Mother as our mother. Anyone who has rejected the Blessed Mother has rejected Christ. And I say that boldly to all the Protestants out there who think Catholics are foolish for their devotion to the Blessed Mother, or who falsely accuse the Catholic Church of worshiping or adoring the Blessed Mother. Worship and adoration only belong to God. We honor, we invoke the Blessed Mother's help, just as I would invoke someone I thought highly of. Please pray for me. Help me if you can. This is how we look to the Blessed Mother. And so in these days of ours, there is no doubt that the devil is running rampant. And I see aspects of this in every facet of our lives, from education to politics, to the food we eat, to the health care, any aspect of this world that you can consider, the devils have infiltrated, have corrupted, and there is, I think, a degrading, a debasing trend right before our eyes. And I won't say that everything that is going around us is all evil. I point out that many of these material things are just things. They're indifferent in themselves. It is the use that we make of them. I've come across people, the internet is evil, the TV is evil, the telephone is evil. You can go back in history, the printing press is evil because now we're printing all these lies in the newspaper and the people are reading these. We can go back, all the technology, all these things, there's always been someone saying, this is evil. And I pull back from that and I say, none of these things are evil. These things are indifferent. They are tools given to us by God. They are good in themselves. It is an evil will that uses these good things for evil purposes. And so we must really be able to make that distinction. The sinner is not inherently evil. He is good because he's made in the image and likeness of God. He has just made a wrong choice and he is headed in a wrong direction. And those choices that he has made are evil. And that is evil. Sin is the evil, not the material, the physical thing, but the choice of the will to offend God and to seek our own perverted or misguided will. That is truly the evil that is before us. And so, yes, there's no doubt we can see evil in the world all around us. There's no doubt that it's been foretold. Many saintly people, many wise people have pointed out this is the way history is progressing. This is the direction we're going. If we don't do something to stop it or turn around, this is where we're going to end up. If you start out on a journey going south and use whatever means you can to go south, you eventually end up at the South Pole. You end up in Antarctica. It doesn't take a genius to point that out. You just need to know a little bit about geography and the Earth, or at least what we perceive as geography, what we understand. You get on a train, you're going in the direction that train's going, and you will continue on that journey until the train stops at its destination. It's that simple. You're not going to end up in the other direction or off to one side or the other. you will follow the straight path of where that train is going. And so it is in our lives. We live a life of sin. We choose evil. We continue in that life and continue in these choices. We will end up in hell. We don't need a revelation to understand that. But if we live a life of virtue, we cooperate with the graces of God, we truly receive, accept, and embrace Christ's teaching to deny ourselves daily, take up our cross, and follow Him, we can end up in heaven, or we will end up in heaven, I guess I should say, very emphatically. Those who do the will of God will be pleasing to God and will spend eternity with Him. It is those who have rejected God's will, rejected the cross, rejected sacrifice, those will end up not in heaven, but in hell. And yes, there have been revelation, there's been wise people pointing this out, and perhaps we need this. I feel like I've heard it so much, I'm really tired of it, as that we say in philosophy, ad nauseum. It is so much that it is nauseating to hear, and I suggest to people we should seek to choose to see the goodness of God in spite of all this evil. In spite of all this darkness, there is still light. God is still in heaven. God is still in charge, and all things will work for the greater honor and glory of God. All things work for the good of those who love God. So rather than worry about things I have no power to change or I can't control, I should concern myself with things I can control. And I can control whether I love God, whether I serve God. I can control whether I follow the fashions of this world and the fashions of the devil, or if I cling to the eternal truths of God. That is in my power. And alongside of this, for those whom I love, those whom I come into contact with, or those whom God puts me in contact with, my goal is to help them love God, to help them be better, to help them rise above the temptations and the snares of this world. And truly, we can find no better advocate, to draw all this back around, no better advocate than the Blessed Mother. For she is in heaven, she sees and knows what we are experiencing, and she has the answer for us. And I see, from my perspective, the answer is very clear. The Blessed Mother's fiat, this unity of will with God. And again, I'm trying to avoid using the word conformity because, or I should say, I'm trying to avoid the word resignation and trying to use more the idea of conformity, that we are one with God's will. Whatever God wills, that's what I will. That's what I want. So much so that we can even perhaps imitate St. Paul. I can't remember exactly where St. Paul wrote or said this, but he suggests to the idea that he is so filled with the love of God, so filled with the love of his neighbor, his fellow men, that he is willing to be anathema for them. If he could save all of these souls by going to hell, he is willing to go to hell for the love of God and for the love of his fellow men, so that it will bring happiness to God, happiness to his fellow men. And that, I think, is, while it seems like a puzzle to unravel, it is relatively clear that this is an intense love, that he's willing to sacrifice even his own eternity for those whom he loves, for the will of God. And if God could make better use of his damnation than of his salvation, he is perfectly okay with that. And of course, I say it's a dilemma for us to wrap our mind around, because that very love is going to be the key that opens up the gates of heaven to him and ensures his salvation rather than his damnation. But that love we see the Blessed Mother has in her fiat. That love we must embrace and really make it our own, not just call it our own, but to truly make it our own. not enough to talk the talk. We must really walk the walk. We have to put ourselves out there, truly conform to the will of God. What God forbids, we must avoid. What God says, we must obey. And we must see in even the mere wish or the whisper of God to treat it like a command. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Whatever you say, Lord, I'm ready, willing, and able to obey. Whatever you say, consider it done. That is my love for God. That is my dedication to Him. That is what the Blessed Mother has. This is what we are all called to fulfill. And the Blessed Mother is our key to making this happen. And yes, she appeared, I truly believe she appeared and revealed these things to different individuals and to saints. But she revealed it so that we will begin to pray more earnestly, so that we will begin to love God more fervently. We will begin to avoid the snares of this life and the devils and our own fallen nature more judiciously than we've ever done before. And if that's what it takes, then we should seek that out and follow it. But I think it is better that we should love God from the bottom of our hearts with our whole heart, mind, and soul, and have this conformity rather than to act out of fear. I will obey God because I'm afraid of going to hell. That is noble. That's worthwhile. But I suggest that that's an infantile objective. It is a very weak objective, not very strong. And we need to seek that, but we need to rise even above that and to seek for the love of God. Because I love God, I do not wish to offend Him. Because I love God, I find sorrow in the lives of these others who are offending Him without a second thought, who are careless, indifferent to the will of God, who never think of their Father in heaven. This brings me sorrow because it brings sorrow to the heart of the Blessed Mother. It brings sorrow to God Himself. And so we must seek truly the Blessed Mother and her example, especially in these days in which we live. It is important for our own salvation as well as the salvation of those who are going to hear and understand and follow. All right, Father, I think I'm at the top of the hour just answering Eddie's question, but I think that covered pretty much what we were planning on discussing.
That was a nice long response, Your Excellency.